So, so if we think about what we're looking at when we come to look at a birth chart, we are looking at a timestamp of where all the planets were at the exact moment that Anne-Marie was born. There's so many things that I could talk to, and I'm going to kind of keep this focused on a couple of different things. But firstly, there's a component to astrology where I think you can get some really great high-level understanding of an individual, and that is if you look at where the majority of planets sit in terms of the elements, and there obviously are 4 elements in astrology, in Western astrology. Chinese is different. And in the case of Anne-Marie's chart, she has got Jupiter, Mars, and Uranus are in water signs. So we've got 3 planets there. You've got Pluto and the North Node in air signs. You've got Mercury, the Sun, your midheaven, which is the part of the chart connected to your career, are in earth signs. And then lastly, your ascendant, Venus, Saturn, and Neptune are in fire. So what that all means is that essentially all 4 of the elements are represented in terms of how you express yourself. And when it comes to work, and particularly being entrepreneurial and working for yourself, it is important that you understand the makeup, because if there is a shortfall in a particular element in your chart, then it's important to understand that, because you can get support. You can collaborate with others who are going to boost that part of you that's not it's not naturally within you.
Yeah.
Interestingly, air, which represents which is all to do with communication and relationships and getting messages and things out there. You have Pluto in Libra and the North Node in Libra. And so of all of the planets, of all of the elements, air is the least, if you like, least represented. But Pluto, which is a slow-moving planet and is one of the outer planets, and even though it's not deemed a planet technically anymore, it's a dwarf planet in astrology, it's very powerful. And it represents the way in which you transform, your transformation power. So it's interesting with it sitting in Libra that there's an innate tendency with your generation to essentially transform situations to create peace, balance, and harmony. And Libra can be very much about the one-to-one relationship too. So in one-to-one connection, from your perspective, depth is important. Surface chit-chat is not your storyline. It's not your... And because we have Pluto very closely, it's known as conjunct the North Node, and the North Node is symbolic or representative. It's a very important part of your soul's purpose and journey and what you're evolving into. And with the North Node in Libra, that signature of really going into partnerships, connection with others, one-to-one relationships, that's your sweet spot. So connecting from a professional perspective, one-to-one is also super important. If we go another layer down on that, the North Node and Pluto are both located in the 6th house, which is the house that your chart's broken up into 12 houses. Each house represents an aspect of your life. From a business perspective, the 6th house represents your daily routine. It also represents your health and your well-being. But because it's Pluto and the North Node are in the 6th house, work is important to you. So, and having a purpose and connecting with people regularly is certainly part of your natural rhythm professionally. And I'm curious, has that always been the case for you? Have you always been drawn to one-to-one connections?
You know, I have always needed to feel like I'm making impact, and part of making impact is going deeper. So absolutely, I am not one for surface level chat. I don't think I could. I can remember one of my early bosses saying that I would be good in sales, but sales at the time didn't feel like it was ever going to be the right fit because it felt too fake. It didn't feel authentic. It didn't feel so. Yes, there is the one-to-one from that, but it didn't.
It
And
was
when
too
I think,
transactional potentially for you that
mm,
you couldn't go deep enough.
I've always had a
Mm.
real drive to be doing something that felt purposeful. Like I do love work, and I love for my work to feel like I'm as excited for Monday as I am for Friday. Like, sometimes I'm even sad when Friday comes because like I have more work to do, and I know it's important for me to take time off. I would have a tendency more towards overworking than underworking, and so that's a balance that I have to be aware of. But I know when I did my Clifton Strengths, I'm a relator, right? Like I like going deep. I like having that one-to-one connection. So that really relates for me.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, I'm looking at one particular part of the chart, but it's an important component from a purpose perspective. And it's also it's making a square aspect up to your midheaven. And the midheaven in the chart's representative of your professional reputation, your career path, how you're known from the work you do in the world by others. So your contribution, if you like, in the public space in terms of the work that you do. So because Pluto and the North Node are making a square up to that part of your chart, it's definitely important for you that transformation through one-to-one conversations and connections is the way in which you build your business. And because you have Capricorn on the midheaven, I always describe Capricorn as the CEO energy of the zodiac.
Mm-hmm.
Capricorn's very much committed to setting goals for the longer term,
Mm-hmm.
creating a plan, having a strategy, understanding and appreciating that good things take time, but consistent perseverance and commitment to what you're doing, will yield you those results. So whatever it is you're doing, you want to know that you can build a business and structures that you can continue to build on and grow on. So setting strong foundations and building on that's very important to you as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
Interestingly, if we come back to the sun in your chart, and of course everybody knows what their sun sign is. So at the time that you were born, the sun was in the sign of Virgo. Virgo is the only female sign in the zodiac, and she's an earth sign, and she's a mutable earth sign, which means she's adaptable and she's changeable. She's incredibly resourceful. So the energy of Virgo is very much about if you think about the medicine woman, and her whole objective or purpose is to be of service and to help people heal. And so the way in which she heals is she's able to diagnose problems, and then she's able to go to her medicine cabinet, which traditionally was the forest, and understand what every single plant and herb was capable of doing to help heal, and understand how do you put that together to create an elixir that's going to heal the patient or the person who's come to them. And if we bring that into the modern day world, Virgo can play out in so many ways, but there's a strength in you, strength of character that wants to delve into understanding what's the problem. You want to dive in and pick and pull apart what's creating the issue in the first place, not surface fixing, but go to the depth of it. And then the other wonderful thing about Virgo is the intellect. You've got intellectual horsepower galore to be able to organize and systematize and put structures in place to help you do that. And if I look at the way you've presented what you've presented to me in the report that you sent through, it's beautifully organized. So from an executive functioning perspective, as a client with you, I can read it and it's logical, and there's a sense of ability to that. And I'm like, I'm understanding as I go. And that's one of the beautiful powers of the Virgo energy, which you have. Also, the sun is in the 6th house, and as the North Node and Pluto are. So once again, this construct of service and doing things that helps others is part of a strong call for you, a strong sense of duty to you.
I'll jump in there and comment that, I mean, So the very first astrological reading I had, she pulled out the sun in the sixth house, and she said, "Oh, so well-being is important to you,
Yeah.
service." And I said, "Oh, okay. Well, that was the only thing that didn't really land for me because at that point in time, I was working in the wine industry, but she didn't know, and I did, that a week later I was starting my first ever yoga teacher training. It was a 500-hour 1 year course. I didn't know that that was going to be the tipping point for me into well-being because I got halfway through that program and went, "Oh my God, this information's so profound. How can it would be negligent of me not to share this with the world." And then that took me into the therapeutic side of yoga because I had healed so much of my own life through
Mhm.
yoga, different yogic tools that assisted my depression and my headaches and my IBS and so my irregular menstrual cycle, all of this stuff had evened out my relationships. And so then it was like, there's so much to this. I want to understand more. I want to go deeper. And so then that's where I went deeper. And so now having come out of, the yoga therapy space, because as much as I love yoga, I started learning about other modalities, other things that I wanted to add into the arsenal because, yes, that's a good entry point for some people, but it's not necessarily the entry point for everyone. And so I love this idea of, for me, it's all about learning. And then as I learn, I want to share new things because not everyone resonates, not everyone needs the same thing, everyone's unique. So it's like here, and so even as I structure my programs or I structured my book, it's like here are different modalities, here are different things that you can experiment with.
Mhm.
So I love that. I am very structured. I am very, the book correlates with the podcast, and the podcast, it all correlates with the programs. Like I just see things just in the same way that I saw things across astrology, human design, and Gene Keys, and said, "Oh, there's something here that I want to." Each has its own beautiful wisdom, and collectively, the three of them can help you go deeper, right? So that all
Mhm.
makes sense to me.
Yeah, and for you, you can pick things up quite quickly with Virgo, with Mercury also in Virgo.
Mm.
And it's making, in your case, in your chart, the Sun and Mercury are making a trine up to the MC or the midheaven, which is your career and your professional reputation. So that's very supportive. A trine is where they're both earth signs. So earth signs are also incredibly, obviously, grounded. But if we think about them in the business world, it's about getting tangible results.
Mm-hmm.
So it's about building something and understanding the importance of building something over the longer term. And so for you, it needed to be essentially creating a business,
Mm.
putting it out there into the world in a form
Yeah.
that's your unique version of doing that
Mm.
as well. So look, there's so many components of your chart we could also talk to, but I do think there are a couple of other things that are interesting to share with listeners,
Yes.
that maybe are potential clients of yours
Mm-hmm.
that can come to you for your magic. The moon in the birth chart is very it's talking to what your emotional needs are. It does also talk to your biological or physical needs in a lot of ways as well. But I look at it in the business world as what's important to you? What do you need in order for you to be nourished so that you can go out and express your sun sign or your strengths, and so you can connect into your purpose? Because if your needs aren't being met, then our stress behavior starts to
Mm-hmm.
kick in.
Surface.
Yeah. And so the more we are connected or tuned into what our needs are and we honor those, then the less likely we are to be resorting to behaviors that are old patterns that don't serve us.
Mm.
So you were born with the moon in Cancer, and the moon rules Cancer. So it's in rulership, which means that your moon it is highly functional. It also happens to sit in the fourth house, which is the part of the chart related to home, family, security, which was ruled by Cancer as well. So you're very much in touch with your emotions. You need things that matter to you are this sense of family,
Mm-hmm.
whether it's a family that you create, whether it's blood family or friendship family, but this sense of family that you belong to,
Mm-hmm.
potentially are a matriarch of. and that you create beautiful, safe, nurturing environments for those that you love most.
Mm-hmm.
And in the workplace, it can translate as, for example, needing to work in an environment where there's a sense of familiarity to it. So maybe more of a smaller business where people are treated like family, where it's not such a traditional, conventional, rigid environment. That would
For sure.
work well for you.
No.
Yeah, am I correct there?
Yeah, absolutely. Like
Yeah.
I could never work in big business. My saying was always, I don't want to be a cog in the wheel. Like I needed that connection and intimacy.
Exactly. And then once you have that, you are able to be the life of the party and really creative and humorous and bring so much joy. But if that's missing, the crab can, go inside of itself, go into its
Mm,
shell and put its walls up and not be as emotionally available.
mm,
So you've innately identified that in terms of your journey in the world, but it is interesting to just really appreciate that you need to do things that nourish you. Being near water, I would say, and around water is really important to you.
mhm,
Having a creative outlet, um, and having a little community of family that you can, innately wrap your arms around and take good care of is super, super, super important to you.
mm, mm.
Yeah.
I
So,
Yeah,
sorry.
all of that aligns. I'm actually I'm originally from Atlanta, Georgia, right? And I've lived in Australia for 20 years. And the first time we were looking for a house, I was like, oh, I can live like near the water. And then like each subsequent house has been getting closer and closer to the water. And like I'm currently looking for my next home and I want to be on the water. It's so clear how important being near the water is for me.
Mm.
And oh, there was something else there that you said that I was going to comment on, but I've lost it.
Yeah, lovely. I mean, you've got other planets in Cancer as well, so it's a strong signature for you and it's a very creative energy. It's intrinsic. It's a cardinal sign, which means that it's intrinsically motivated to move towards taking action.
Mm,
So creating emotional security for self and for your clients
yeah.
is a really key part of your modus operandum.
Yeah, that was the other thing I was going to say is that I have felt as I've gone through my own journey and come closer and closer to my inherent wholeness and being, there have been some friendships that have dropped away or changed, and it's been this searching for my new tribe. And actually, one of the things that I'm rolling out is um, I started running retreats and circles this year again, like to have that, to be able to nurture, to be able to share in a really intimate, safe space and community. And that's now going to be an offering that's online that still will be intimate and safe and small and intimate, I guess is the main word, but allows whoever feels drawn or connected. So I've created both a Facebook group for this podcast for people to go deeper, but then people who really want to be in community with me in a different way. And like that feels really important as part of my next steps. So it's interesting that you point out that with my moon in the fourth house is part of how that kind of plays out for me.
Well, I think you're also tapping into, you've got Jupiter and Mars. Jupiter is wherever Jupiter is in our chart is Jupiter represents abundance and growth and expansion, a desire for knowledge. It can also represent the teacher and the philosopher.
Mm,
And that's right next to Mars, which is your intrinsic drive and motivation.
mm,
And they're also in Cancer. So in the third house. Now, the third house has got a number of different meanings, but a couple of them, when I'm talking to clients, it represents marketing and social media.
mhm,
It also represents teaching.
mhm.
So it's interesting what you've just described with almost using social media to create groups
Yeah.
that are intimate
Mhm,
where it's emotionally safe place to share so that you're teaching in a way that are online that is very nourishing.
mhm.
And so that's definitely really important to you.
Yeah.
And when you're doing that, because of the connection of these planets, we've got the Jupiter and Mars are making a connection up to Uranus and Scorpio. Uranus is where you're doing things differently, you're being inventive, you're creating something that's a bit outside of the box. But we've got Uranus in Scorpio, which is about going deep, getting to the heart of the matter, right down in the surface subconscious level. And then that's also opposite Chiron and connecting back into Jupiter and Mars. So Chiron represents the wounded healer. It represents where we've experienced a wounding, but it's also our greatest teacher so that we can support others to heal as well. So in this community, I can see that there is this opportunity for you to do things in an innovative way that allows people to transform by going deeper into emotional recesses they perhaps don't do everywhere, to heal and to bring back and restore a sense of self-esteem, bring back and restore that sense of coming back to the truth of who they are, so they are grounded in that beautiful, self-loving, valuing their own resources way.
Yeah. Lovely. Oh, I love it.
Yeah. I mean, of course, we could keep talking for hours. There's so many components to it.
We could, and for the listeners, because I know that it would be more interesting for you to have your own chart read as opposed to just listening to mine. I really wanted to provide that as a little bit of a snapshot of not only how accurate it is, but how you can then understand yourself better and lean into these inherent energies that are already within you so that you can be more aligned and more purposeful and just understanding of yourself and your way of being in the world.